Good evening. My name is John Zarakostas, and I'm the president of the UN Correspondents Association, ACANU, and this is our first inaugural event, Books and Ideas. We hope to have many more in the future, and this will be an open forum inviting everyone to participate in the exchange of ideas. And we are very honored to have today as the first author in the series, Hedayate Abdul-Nabi, our distinguished colleague. She's been a member of our association for 10 years. And she's also been past president of our association and has a long distinguished career with the Kuwaiti News Agency, where she's the bureau chief here, and for many years with Egyptian newspapers, including covering the presidency for Al-Ahram. Personally, I've learned a lot from Hedayate over the years. She has a gut instinct to know what is in the Arab street. People talk about it intellectually in talk sessions, but somehow Hedayate has the pulse. She really can feel it even though she's thousands of miles away. In that sense, we've learned a lot from her over the years and saying, oh, this is good, this is bad.
I would like to say that all articles in the book were published in Egypt between 2004 and 2008, with the exception of 4 articles. 3 were denied publication in a leading Egyptian newspaper. The 4th article on the UPR system, which we all know, was not published, probably for a lack of understanding for the system and its novelty. People still don't understand what's going on in this system. Concerning Egypt, the book argues that Egypt has performed beautifully in many arenas and has failed into chaos in others. It warns that if the creative trend of Egypt is not captured and built upon swiftly and quickly, the country might lose this opportunity forever. It calls for what I term absolute justice to remake the new Egypt into a robust, creative, and harmonious country. The book dreams of the day when an opposition party would win the national elections and a woman becomes president of Egypt. Of course, it's not going to be me. Egypt's national soccer football team and its symbols are often referred to in the book as an example of excellence, and I call for the proper use of the energy of the 80 million people after each winner to realize the new Egypt. The book calls for a replica of the US presidential elections, whereby primaries would be included a year ahead of the next Egyptian presidential elections in 2011. On the regional level, the book sends messages to President Obama through a letter written by an American mother who lost her son in Iraq and a Palestinian who uses art to combat occupation. The book argues that the Arab nation will never forgive former President Bush for not working on realizing a Palestinian state. In addition, the book says, based on statements by US officials like former President Bush and Nancy Pelosi and others, there is nothing called human rights. Such rights are linked to interests regardless of the validity of the rights. The 2 articles that were not published in a major Egyptian daily in Egypt were Chaos and Creativity, and one on Arab satellites, as that on the UPR of the Human Rights Council. The book advocates in the first article guaranteeing the rights of the ordinary Egyptian across the board, and quotes my longtime friend John Zarakostas when he said that Egypt reminds him of his country Greece before joining the European Union. His country, he is Australian, but his country of birth is Greece. John says when there was a need to put in one pace the creativity of Greece and move away from chaos, which applies a lot to the situation in my country. However, when it comes to unjust criticism of Egypt and reports issued by some entities in Geneva, I defend my country like a lion. One article in the book is devoted to one of those unjust reports. On the second article, the book advocates honoring Arab satellites for their coverage of the Lebanon war and calls for an Oscar-like award to be granted to the best coverage of the war by the leading Arab satellite. The book takes stock of the many tragedies of the Middle East, notably the war in Lebanon 2006, Gaza 2006, Beit Hanun, massacres, and others. The book was submitted to publication before the last war, so there is no reference to it. The author calls for a special award named after Archbishop Desmond Tutu and Professor Christine Schenken, who were tasked with the investigation of the Beit Hanun massacre. And the book believes that the first award named after them would go to both. Then each year it goes to an individual or an organization that has flagged the suffering of the Palestinian and Lebanese people and or has honored their victims. One article in the book honors celebrities in the human rights arena: John Ziegler, Milon Kutari, Paul Hunt, Martin Shannon, Richard Falk, and others. The book argues whether the Arab world will continue to exist, or to be or not to be, and poses the question whether it has joined the remains of the victims of the Middle East conflicts and is trapped it itself in its own remains. It advocates that civil society in the Arab world will play a very important role in ending the current divide, and that the alternative is a continued challenge or defeat. The book includes an article on war in Iraq 6 years after and pays tribute to the former president of the Iraqi Syndicate of Journalists, Shihab el-Tamimi, who was slain by unidentified gunmen, and flags the role of the Press Emblem campaign in defending journalists in armed conflict. One of the most important articles in the book, which is very dear to my heart, is the article on who killed Lebanon. It is an outstanding article in the book narrating from the position of an observer the invasion of Lebanon during the summer of 2006. The book stands against scripted channels when it comes to soccer, games, and sports, and advocates open channels so that the destitute can have the right to view. Examples from the standards applied in the European Union, Switzerland, and the UK are cited. The author pays tribute to former UN Secretary General Boutros Ghali and to the current president of the Egyptian People's Assembly, Ahmed Fathi Srour. And now I'm talking about Ahmed Fathi Srour, for his succinct views on how to bring the perpetrators of war crimes against the Palestinians and Lebanese peoples to justice. In short, the book is based on 19 articles published in El Badil, 11 articles in El Ahram, 2 articles from Kuwait News Agency, 1 article in El Musawwar, an Egyptian weekly magazine, and an article that was published in Akhbar al-Yom, a weekly newspaper, in 2004. 4 articles in the book, because I'm a fan of soccer, cover the political lessons from football and the Egyptian stars of the game. Thank you. Well, I think Egypt is still very unique and extremely talented as a country. And I do think there are bits and pieces here and there that pulls the country back, but in the total picture, there is such energy that you can use and move ahead if you have a sort of system of, well, I don't know how to, I spoke about it, absolute justice. And absolute justice entails many angles. And if this is achieved, I think Egypt will surpass all the models you have spoke about.